Abortion to save the life of the mother? One of the most common objections to pro-life laws and abortion bans is the question of abortion for the life of the mother. This is when there is a perceived, potentially fatal health risk to the mother, either pregnancy-related or not. And it's common for abortion bans to have an exception for the life of the mother already included in them. As compassionate conversationalists, we have to assume that when abortion supporters use the phrase abortion for the life of the mother as a cornerstone of their entire argument, that it's coming from a place of genuine concern. Even so, a question we have to ask is, what constitutes the life and health of the mother? When it comes to a life or death scenario, intention matters. The intent of abortion is death, while the intent of intervening when a mother's life is at risk is totally different. It's to save the life. Students for Life and Students for Life Action supports life-saving efforts that treat both mother and child as patients worthy of saving, knowing that sometimes not all can be saved. After all, medical emergencies arise all the time in which both parties cannot be saved. But that's a far cry from actively killing those involved in the crisis. Our commitment is to protecting vulnerable life, and that extends to mothers when their lives are in danger in their pregnancy, especially when it comes to circumstances that make the survival of both human lives impossible. Let's look at a little history, for example. In 1973, the Supreme Court handed down Roe v. Wade, and everybody has heard about Roe versus Wade. But the same day, they also issued their companion case to Roe, called Doe v. Bolton. This is little known amongst Americans. Doe pushed the abortion extremism imposed by the Supreme Court to the absolute limit by stating, quote, medical judgment may be exercised in the light of all factors, physical, emotional, psychological, familial, and the woman's age, relevant to the well-being of the patient. All of these factors may relate to health. In other words, literally anything would qualify as pertaining to the health of the mother under Doe, whether it was stress, pressure from her family, or some morning sickness. Not to mention, an abortionist or an abortion facility counselor has zero incentive to determine whether the woman on the other side of the table who's seeking an abortion is there because of a legitimate health concern. In May 2019, a Gallup poll indicated that only 25% of Americans believe abortion should be legal under all circumstances, or any circumstances. 53% in this poll would allow it only under certain circumstances. Still, it took 50 years for the Supreme Court to acknowledge the extremism and the overreach of Roe and Doe by reversing their decision on June 24th of this year. Is abortion for the life of the mother ever valid? Nothing I've already said negates the reality that complicated pregnancies are a real thing. There are certainly cases where the mother's life may be put at risk, or may be at risk, such as ectopic pregnancy. Fortunately, true life of the mother cases are actually very rare. And due to amazing advances in medical technology, they are becoming more and more survivable and treatable. Actual life-threatening issues involving pregnancy are vastly different than the generic health issues. If any doctor tells you that that your pregnancy or your wife's pregnancy is a risk to you or her and recommends an abortion, always seek a second opinion. Too often, abortion is used as the lazy solution that spares doctors from figuring out an actual treatment plan for her and her child. Keep in mind, some doctors actually fear the malpractice lawsuits associated with treating high-risk pregnancies and are unwilling to take patients with complicated pregnancies. We see this a lot in the pro-life movement, where pro-life OBGYNs who are known throughout their community actually see and take and accept more patients with complicated pregnancies because they're told by other OBGYNs that they can't be seen. Fortunately, we have many good doctors in the pro-life movement and throughout the country that specialize in high-risk pregnancies that can successfully treat both mother and child as patients. The good news is that intentionally killing a child is never necessary to save a woman's life. Don't take my word for it. You can take the word of thousands of OBGYNs and healthcare professionals who have testified to this truth. What can absolutely be necessary is delivering the child early, maybe even too early for the child to survive with today's medical treatment. When done without directly intentionally killing the child prior to delivery, this is simply called an early delivery. Even if a child dies, tragically dies as a consequence of an early delivery that was performed to save a woman's life, that's not an abortion because the intention was to save both patients. So let me conclude by repeating this. When it comes to life and or death scenarios, intention matters. The intent of abortion is always death, while the intent of intervening when a mother's life is at risk, is in danger, is life.